this song for ya.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and we are in Season 9 covering the album Burn. Today's episode is episode number 6, or overall episode 80. That's a lot of episodes. We are talking about the song What's Going On Here? Very interesting track. Must have been one hell of a party. I say we just jump right in and get to it. What do you say? Here it is by Deep Purple. Absolutely fantastic intro. It's a very simple riff, but I love the multi-layered guitars that we get there. Sounds really good. And again, another one where we're like, okay, here's the basic. Let's get into the story and get into vocals in about 14 seconds, which is not too bad. Something that we get on this song that's pretty rare. I can't, off the top of my head, think of another instance where this happens. But, you know, like I've said in the past, when you're listening to a song, it's hard to think of other songs sometimes. But we get the ride cymbal during the verse instead of the hi-hat, which is pretty rare. Also, Ian Paice, it's a shuffle, so we get Glenn playing the didin, Ian Paice playing part of the shuffle, not doing the da as much, which is, I always love that, though. I don't like when everything's just doubled perfectly. I like when one instrument is following one part, one instrument is following another part, and they're working together to create that shuffle feel. That's pretty nice. It's a good tempo, too. And what a great opening line. Roll me over slowly, I've been drinking all night. You can, anybody who's ever had one of those nights can immediately relate to that feeling that David is talking about here. Even the slightest, a candle across the room would be far too bright. You know, if you were to open your eyes all the way, it's just, you do not want to move. There are some things that are really smart to do, like drinking a lot of water and hydrating. But you do not want to even get up. Not that that's ever happened to me. Anyway, here's the song. I mean, this is just another perfect example of how amazingly good Glenn and David sound together. Apart, they're amazing singers on their own, and there's just something about their voices that when you put them together, it's absolute magic. I remember, when I was in my younger days, I met up with a buddy of mine, and there's two things that I was very adamant in my youth that I did not like. I love peaches, but I hated peach flavored anything because back in my younger days, they did not know how to make peach flavored anything very well. Anything I tried was just god awful. And Jack Daniels, I did not like Jack Daniels. I was more of a vodka guy. Any other hard liquor just wasn't right for me. I liked beer, I liked wine, and I liked vodka. So a buddy of mine found these peach flavored Jack Daniels mixes and he's like, hey, I got us these. And I'm like, this has got to be the worst combination of anything. I would never put these two things together, but it's what we had. So I gave it a try and it was amazing. Whatever they did, the combination of those two things that I couldn't stand were just heaven dancing on my taste buds. So it's interesting. Although I would say, in contrast to that, both David and Glenn sound amazing individually, but sometimes the combinations of unexpected, unrelated things can be absolutely magic. And I say unrelated because their styles and their sounds are so different that I wouldn't, if you said, get two singers, we're going to do this track. We need some vocal harmonies. We want them to sound unique. Like, I don't think I ever would have put these two guys together, but I'm so glad that Deep Purple did, because what we're getting, especially on this album, is just top-notch vocal sounds.
I can't stay here. There's something wrong here. What's going on here?
I like the way they went back to the opening riff and incorporated these vocals here. And again, they're leaving that lane for the vocals to come through. They're playing in between and leaving a lot of open space for the story and just, the feeling of our storyteller. Love that. Musically, it's fantastic. It's basically it's blues, but it's a nice variation. And this is the kind of thing that when John Mottola was on the show and we were talking in the Who Do We Think We Are season about Place in Line, and I said, it's just too basic blues for a Deep Purple song for me. And I think that's what I don't like about it. This is a very simple blues. It's a shuffle feel, just very basic. But what they're doing to it is they're giving it that Purple treatment. They're taking something that is kind of common and simple and making it unique in their own. And that's what I was looking for on Place Online, and I didn't get, but I am getting it here on this song. Go back and listen to that and really focus on the bass, because what Glenn played there, that just sounds great. Really gritty, really harsh, really cuts through, but a nice touch. We're getting little flourishes from everyone. It's a very active song, which I like. Interestingly, they never played this live, but I could kind of see that. I mean, they've got so many songs that are just explosive on stage. When you've only got so much time, there's only so many songs you can do. And I could see this being one that would work in a small, more intimate venue, like a House of Blues, for example. But if you're playing, a decent sized arena or stadium or, festival or anything like that, which, they were playing some pretty big venues as far as I know at this point. But I don't know what their average gig was like, but I could say there's probably a lot of stages this just wouldn't be that entertaining on, when you've got so many more explosive songs. If you're going to do a blues, you're going to do Mistreated. That would have been the thing on stage. So any other like basic blues song probably would have been just overshadowed by Mistreated. So everything else is going to be more high energy. You're going to have your one, maybe two songs that bring it down a little bit. But that would be Mistreated for sure. So this one really never had an opportunity to get to the stage, and that's fine. I think it's a great album track. If they started playing it live, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But I don't know that I would have been that excited about it. Again, great track, but don't really think this fits a large stage, at least. Now, if I was seeing him in a local bar, thinking in Colorado Springs, if you've ever been to the Rack and Roll, that would be a venue where I would see a song like this working. Maybe the Bluebird Theater in Denver, if that's still there. But a more intimate venue. One of the things I think that makes this feel a little more bluesy to me is that John's playing the piano instead of an organ. I think if he were playing the Hammond on this, it would have, obviously it would have a different feel than a piano, but I think it would take away some of that blues. I mean, even though it's a shuffle, and all that. It got that right tempo and everything for a blues. I think it's the piano that's kind of giving me more that feeling than anything else. I would have been curious what he would have played and how it would have sounded had he gone with a Hammond, especially on this album, which is a pretty explosive album. If this were, say, Who Do We Think We Are or Stormbringer, I think it would fit in better as far as the piano goes. But, well, he played what he played.
Going on here?
Great solo. Fits the song very, very well. Again, a slightly bluesy solo. Again, feels like Ritchie's kind of maybe channeling a little BB King at the end of this. But I like where it kind of, changes and he starts to land the solo, saying, hey, we're about to transition. I think that's a great point. And it also gives us an understanding that we're not getting an extremely long extended solo, at least not at this point. Although we are 2:40 into a track that's it says 4:58, so I'll say probably 4:56 because the last couple seconds are usually silent. So we're only halfway through. We've got 2 verses, a couple of choruses in, and a ways to go. So let's see where we go from here. I like that we're back at the reconnecting point coming out of the solo. I think they transition so well, especially on this album. Everything just rolls so smoothly from one part into another. I don't know what pianos were available at the time or if that is like an early version of a digital piano, because it's very, very dry, has a really unique sound, almost like an old Western upright piano. There's just something interesting about the sound in there that I'm hearing. It's very bright for sure. And it's a good solo. I for what it is, I think he plays very well on it. But again, and I realized too, I was thinking about this during the solo. I'm like, why don't I like this more? And I think part of it, to be honest, is because I'm generally burnt out on piano. I've heard so many songs that use a piano, and it's so dominant in so many of those songs that for the most part, I guess I'm a little turned off to the piano sound. So that might be affecting a little bit of what I'm hearing. I think it's important to note when you're, even as a casual listener, when you're listening to something, if there's something you don't like, kind of understanding why you might not like it. It has nothing to do with the choice of John picking a piano, has nothing to do with the performance, what he wrote, how he played it, any of that. It's just in general, pianos kind of become a little bit, worn on my ears. And so I don't write a whole lot on piano anymore. My buddy James Sizemore has put out a couple of absolutely beautiful piano-based albums that I absolutely adore. Started to bring me back around a little bit and say, well, I've kind of gotten away from piano for a while. Loved the sounds that he got on those albums. Excellent guy, too. It was my very first interview on the Haskincast podcast. He was also the very first guest on a show I was editing back in the day called Scorecast, which was about film composing and in the music business for film. But So yeah, that I think is a big component of it, but I think in general that even played a role back then because I think even back when I around the days that I was first getting into this album would have preferred to hear an organ sound on this. Um, that would have been like well before I got burned on piano, but I have to look at it objectively and say that might be a factor as to why I feel that way right now.
Well, the cause of the party.
I know that part is short, but I feel it's getting a little bit repetitive. I think if they had gone from the piano solo right into the verse and just avoided playing this again would have been nice. I don't think they necessarily needed to go back to this connection point again. It was the opening. We've heard it a couple of times already. So, 3 minutes and 44 seconds in, it's to me, it's overstayed its welcome a little bit. I think the song would have been tighter if they just went straight into the verse.
Well, the cause of the boy, they left me for dead. I can't remember a thing I said. Must have called the police to take me.
In general, I really like what Glenn is playing during this verse, but where David's singing right here, I know it's not wrong, but it sounds wrong. That there's just something about that note he's playing underneath David on this line that I don't know. It's just a little off-putting to my ear. I don't think I've ever noticed that before either. I like putting those two sections together for the final pass of this. I think that was a really cool idea. I like when a song does that because it just kind of like gives you a final summary of what's happening and why this person is telling the story they're telling or what they're experiencing. It's a nice trick.
I can't stay here. There's something wrong here. What's going on here?
Yep, that would be a great ending for the stage. Like I said, I think that the song would fit well in a smaller, more intimate venue. But I mean, it's not a bad song by any means. There's a lot of highlights to it. There's things I don't like about it overall. I think the piano is a big factor for me. A little bit about the arrangement, but honestly, I mean, you're just talking about a few seconds. So in the big picture of things, it's not a big deal. I think the song would have been a little tighter had they just not returned to that connection point. But overall, it's a solid song. The vocals are the things for me, I think, that really lock it down. There's a couple of nice flourishes from everybody. They all get their kind of chance to shine, except really for Ian Pace. He's the only one that doesn't have like any major standout points. They're nice fills, but he plays it pretty straightforward, and that's fine. I do like the ending, though. I think it was nice for them to switch to something completely different to put a final point on the song. And pretty good overall, I would say. I guess for me, one of the two weakest tracks on the album. But again, you're talking about like what's the worst piece of cake that you could slice out of this delicious cake? I mean, all the cake is going to be good. Some pieces might be a little more dry than others, and that's being the difference, but it's all going to be delicious cake at the end of the day. So cool stuff. Great track. I don't know if this was based off of any particular experiences, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know what the party level factor was at this point in the band, but I will say that whether it was an actual experience, a past experience, because they could have been writing about something that had happened years ago or something that happened literally the day before they wrote the lyrics. I really don't know. But either way, it's a great story. A lot of people in rock and roll, I think, can identify with the insanity of this. And God, the vocals just sound so amazingly good together. Love the sound of Richie's guitar. We get some good moments in this song for sure. So that will wrap up our show for today, guys. We'll be back in the next episode for another song. We'll be covering Mistreated. That should be a great way to end the week. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode and thanks for listening.